Politics show. Some big news today, obviously. A-10 action URI beating VCU 76-67. Ben Kinch with WRIU play-by-play, bringing us the update because you were at the game.
Absolutely. I hope I can complete this interview because I just spent the better part of 2 hours screaming my voice off after what was a fantastic game.
So talk with us a little bit. It was close there for a while, had a little trouble from the free throw line, but made them when they counted down the stretch.
Yeah, absolutely. So going into those final couple of minutes, Rhode Island entered 3 of 11 from the free throw line, which is somewhere that they've struggled, especially in these past couple of games. When they lost that first A-10 conference loss to Bonaventure and this most recent one to Davidson before this game, it's because they weren't able to hit free throws down the stretch, and they gave games back to other teams. They weren't able to put those points on the board and allowed other teams to crawl back in. So when they started missing those free throws, as a Rhode Island fan, you become a little nervous. You're not sure if they're going to be able to pull out the clutch and win it. But thankfully they did. They were much better in this game from a offensive perspective, from a turnover perspective. They shot 50% from the three-point land, 11 of 22. Everything that they did in this game was so much better than the ways they played versus St. Joe's and Davidson. So it's very refreshing to see this team come up to play.
Well, that was going to be my question. They had some very high-profile struggles at the end of the regular season there, so they're making the necessary adjustments from what you see there, calling the play-by-play. Is this the URI team, the URI team we've seen, at the peak of the season?
I don't know if it's at the peak of the season. The team's identity is still there, and that identity is the depth, because you had people like Fats Russell step up. He had 11 points. But E.C. Matthews, to me, is still not playing at his full potential. He had a great first half. He scored 9 points, but then he went cold in the second half, only scoring those 2 clutch free throws at the end to his credit. So you want to see the veteran leadership continue to step up like it did when Rhode Island was at its peak. But, I mean, if they're not at 100% after a game like this, I would say, 90, 95, because they put together a great performance. To me, VCU was criminally underseeded. They were more of the 5 seed than the 8 seed.
Okay.
It was because of the 5-way tie for 5th place in the A-10, which is why they ended up in that 8 seed. But VCU was a tough game. I think everyone knew that coming in. So the fact that they were able to pull out this victory versus VCU in an atmosphere that was really a home game for VCU, with the university being so close to DC, a lot of black and gold fans, but to the Rhode Island Ruckus credit, a lot of Keeney Blue in the house as well today.
A lot of Keeney Blue turning out. Coach Hurley, what was his response after the game?
So Dan Hurley was so appreciative of the hustle and the grit of his players. That's what he said in the post-game press conference. He especially highlighted Russell, who, as a freshman in his first postseason game, showed incredible confidence and poise in the way he was shooting and handling the ball. One of my favorite quotes from him was he said that he could have been a candidate for A-10 Rookie of the Year had he played for any other team in the Atlantic 10. If he hadn't played on a team that was so talented and so deep in the guard department, he could have been putting up numbers had he played, 30 minutes a game on any other team in the league. He could have been in that conversation. So he was very appreciative of the young crowd stepping up, and he was very appreciative of Jeff Doughton, who had a fantastic game.
18 points.
18 points. He absolutely took over. He's a player that shines in the postseason. You'll recall last season during the NCAA tournament and Rhode Island's first game since 1999 when they played Creighton, he scored a game-high 23 points as a freshman. So this guy loves to step up in the postseason, and that's exactly what we saw today.
He's just a big game player. When you were there, I mean, do you think the final score is really indicative of the entirety of the game? It was close there for a while.
It was indicative to me because it's been the way Rhode Island plays all season long. So many of these tough games that they've had to play, the St. Bonaventure game is a great example. They'll go into halftime very close, very slim margin of victory if they have the lead at all, 2-3 points, which is what we saw today. But then they will flip the switch, they will turn it on, and they will prove that they are the better, quicker, faster, more offensively gifted team than pretty much anybody else they've matched up with this season. So it's been indicative of maybe not the game itself, because it was a close game going into the last 3 or 4 minutes. But I would say it would be indicative of the way Rhode Island has played all season long.
So I'm sure Coach Hurley wants to put those players right to bed with the 1 o'clock game tomorrow. Can you give us an update? You've got the phone down here. They're either playing George Mason or St. Joe's. What's the score of the George Mason St. Joe's game right now?
So right now you're looking at a 13-point St. Joe's lead. St. Joe's the 4 seed, so they also got that double bye that Rhode Island have. So they're plenty rested as well. George Mason had to fight through a tough game yesterday. So you're looking at a 13-point lead right now. There's still plenty of time. There's 11 minutes and 16 seconds. So it's obviously a little concerning if you're Rhode Island. You see St. Joe's. Obviously, you had that 30-point decimation at home on senior night. So it's tough to plan for a team like that, I guess, when you had that kind of mental thing. But I think if they do end up playing the St. Joe's team, then they're going to come in motivated and focused because they want another crack at those Hawks.
And, as you said, we're looking at St. Joe's right now. I mean, what are the key matchups? And let's talk a little bit about that big loss. Let's talk about Hurley's reaction to that. And as we talk about them learning sort of the lessons, turning things around a little bit, as we saw from this game, let's talk about that game and what they, need to take away from that if St. Joe's is in fact going to be who they play tomorrow.
Well, you can't talk about that game without talking about St. Joe's and what makes them such a great team and what makes them such a problem matching up wise for Rhode Island. St. Joe's is one of the best teams in the country at not turning the ball over on offense. They rarely turn the ball over. They're ranked in the top tier of the country in that regard. Rhode Island scores a lot of points off of turnovers. They love to play defense, ball hawking. They love to turn the ball over, get those fast break points. So when you have a team like St. Joe's that doesn't allow the ball to be turned over at a high pace, it makes Rhode Island uncomfortable. They need to go to other ways to try and score. Rhode Island tried to go for the 3 in that game at home. It obviously didn't work. They shot 3 of 28. So that was a big reason why that game went down the way it did. I think Dan Hurley this time around, again, should St. Joe's be the team they play, which is looking like it's going to be, he's a kind of coach that can adapt. He knows what this team needs to do in order to give themselves the better chance to go on to the finals, especially against a team like this. And like I said, Dan Hurley is a great motivator. This team is going to be incredibly motivated, incredibly focused, especially since they have a little bit of the pep back in their step. They're feeling the way they were in the mid part of the season with a nice win like that. Just about everyone played the way that they should have been playing. So I think they're coming in tomorrow with confidence, and they know what they need to do. They know the assignments they need to focus on, namely Taylor Funk. He played fantastic in that game at the Ryan Center. He had 17 points, and he was a perfect 5 of 5 for the field. So they have those tough matchup challenges, but I think Dan Hurley will be able to adapt, and you're definitely not going to see a 30-point blowout here in the state.
And let's talk a little bit about the other side of the bracket as well, or is it too premature to go there because obviously we're looking towards the semis tomorrow. Could we see what an eventual championship game could look like?
It's tough right now because this tournament has been all chalk to this point. The only upset has been number 13 UMass over number 12 LaSalle. That was Wednesday, and that's one of those close seeds. So is it really an upset? I don't really think so. So it's been chalk this entire way. Bonaventure versus Dayton, should they both win their games, Davidson rather, Bonaventure versus Davidson should be a fantastic matchup because those are two incredibly offensively gifted teams. In the past couple of weeks, I think it was 2 weeks ago, they went to triple overtime. So these guys are capable of putting on a fireworks performance, both sides. Jalen Adams and Peyton Aldrich, you're talking the A-10 co-players of the year. That's just great basketball. That being said, I really do think that Bonaventure is coming up with the most momentum in this tournament, even over URI because of the way they stumbled at the end of the conference. So I think Bonaventure has the most momentum going into this season. I think Jalen Adams is the best player in the Atlantic 10 right now. So I would expect your championship matchup. Again, we'll see what happens with URI tomorrow. But my prediction would really be the 1 and the 2 seed, Bonaventure and Rhode Island.
Let's talk a little bit about the talk that's around the country, the potential for Coach Hurley to be courted away. I am sure he is trying to ignore that talk at every turn. Yeah, absolutely. This is a team that they deal so well with distractions. That outside noise does not faze them outside of the court. Exactly. Once they take the floor, all this Dan Hurley coaching talk, it doesn't matter to them. It doesn't matter to him. It doesn't matter to the players because he's the kind of guy that is committed to winning right now.
And I gave Molly plenty of speculation yesterday. I think that Dan Hurley is a guy who's committed to winning and future success, and that's exactly what he's built himself up with Rhode Island. So, again, I'll reiterate from yesterday. My personal prediction is that Dan Hurley's staying with Rhode Island. But in terms of what those rumors mean for the A-10 tournament and subsequently the NCAA's next weekend, it's all background noise. He hears what he wants.
It is background noise. I mean, we can speculate here from downtown Providence down to D.C. Are journalists pressing it on him? Does he have to continually turn them away?
At least not today in the post-game presser.
Okay.
It was mostly focused on the game and the play of the students involved, which was good to hear. You don't want to let the rumors around Dan Hurley overshadow the achievements that the kids have been able to do this year, because this really has been a special team. This has been a team that has it's the highest Rhode Island has ever been ranked at 16. They're 25 right now. It's the highest their RPI has ever been. It's the most conference wins they've had in a season. It's a special team with a lot of special kids. Easily one of the best teams that Rhode Island has ever had. So to me, to focus too heavily on the noise surrounding Dan Hurley is just a disservice to the kids, because it really is. And Dan Hurley will say this himself. It's all about the kids and what they've been able to do. Dan Hurley's a great coach, but he said it himself. He's nothing without the execution of his players.
So we're looking towards 1 o'clock tomorrow. Now, you said URI seems to be well represented. I mean, how big would you say the fan base is there right now? And obviously, folks could be going down for tomorrow's game.
So to give you a little bit of perspective, in the last couple of years, VCU, obviously, who they beat today, right down the road, they've been to the conference finals 5 times in the last 5 years. So they know what it's like. They always come out in force. It's always a sea of black and gold. It's huge. Today, that sea was really cut in half. Looked more like a river, because Rhode Island had the Keeney blue all throughout the arena.
Nice.
And when Rhode Island was going on that final run, URI drowned out. Our fans drowned out those VCU fans. They were loud. They were active. And the players have said it themselves. They have fed off of the energy that the Rhode Island fan base has fed them all season long. Look at the games at home. Providence, you sell out every year, but teams like Dayton come in. When Duquesne came in, students had to show up early to get those wristbands, where in years past you could just show up at 6:30 for a 7 o'clock game and get a pretty good seat. This year it's not the case. Fans are showing up. They're passionate. They know that this is a fan base that's on the rise and a program that's on the rise. So they are giving it all the respect in the world. And like I said, so well represented everywhere you go, in the hotel, on the streets, walking over. It's Rhode Island gear everywhere. They know that this team could very well leave with the hardware.
And so you've got friends and family down there with you now. What are folks hitting you back on campus? I mean, you're a senior. You're juggling so many things here. What do folks on campus want to know when they say, hey, Ben, what's it like down in D.C. right now?
Well, one of the things they always say is, how's the general questions, how's the media food, what's the player lounge like? Because we get all those nice hospitalities, which is really cool. But a lot of them have asked what the atmosphere is like, and it's been so fantastic. I'll say the event staff at the Capital One Arena have been so hospitable. The hospitality they've shown, not only the media members at WRIU, but everyone, that they've been so helpful. But in terms of what people are asking me, it's a lot of family reaching out. My mom is texting me all the time, saying how proud she is of me. So that's always good to hear. It's always great to have the support back home for the students out here. We've only been out of Rhode Island for 2 days and we already miss it. But it's a lot of fun out here. We've touched base with all our friends, all of our buddies back in Rhode Island, and we're just really happy to have the support that we've had out here.
Well, I appreciate your taking the time to Skype in once again. Yesterday, gave the update to Molly O'Brien. Today, I was fortunate to catch you here. All eyes on the game tomorrow at 1. Before we let you go, final score update with St. Joe's.
Right now, I'm looking at 52-39 with 7:35 to go. St. Joe's is still on top, so that's a 13-point lead. I'm not Nostradamus, but it looks like you're getting a pretty good rematch tomorrow.
Rematch round 2. Well, we appreciate your taking the time to Skype in Ben Kinch from WRIU, play-by-play. We'll be touching base with you, I'm sure, moving forward, but all eyes on 1 o'clock tomorrow. Ben, thanks for Skyping in.
Thanks a lot, Kate. I appreciate
thanks. Ben Kinch, URI senior, WRIU play-by-play, was at the game today, calling the game today. The URI victory over VCU, now looking at the semifinals and the A-10 championships tomorrow at 1. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back with our next guest here in the Navigant Credit Union Broadcast Center.